This week on the Old School RuneScape Update, Varlamore Part 2 arrives with Mastering Mixology and questions about the reward grind. From potion storage to an undead squirrel in the Tome of Earth, we discuss Varlamore's new goods. Also, combat experiences at Hueycotal and Amoxliatl. This is the Old School RuneScape Update, Episode 47, recorded Sunday, September 29th, 2024. Putting the cart before the Quetzal. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Old School RuneScape Updates. Sirion and myself are here. As we are each and every week, we decided to let the greatness of Varlamore Batch 2 have another day to sit in and absorb into ourselves before coming to you to talk about it. How do you feel on this day?
I mean, that's one way of putting it. The other way of putting it, Sirion was so out and about, he needed the extra time to get even a hint of what the whole update was about. But
we'll let the podcast content speak for itself in that regard. But of course,
oh yes.
But of course, we do have what everybody comes to expect from us. We're going to be going through most of the content of Varlamore Batch 2 this week, and next week we will be back, of course, for a classic OSRS Quest Week. And if you do want to follow along, show notes, update.show/OS. You can also subscribe to the podcast there on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, update.show/OS. So, without further ado, let's start with Mastering Mixology. That sounds like something a crazy chemist could say, couldn't it?
Yeah, this was the one that I think raised the most eyebrows, or, well, raised the most voices, I think.
Yeah, it was also the one I had the most fun with, interestingly enough.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's... I was out and on the road most of the week, so I really only got a chance to play it on mobile. And
then how was that experience?
It works. It's not made for it. That's for sure. It feels like the click areas are not particularly big.
Yeah, I'll even say that for desktop.
No, yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something I kind of want to do on a desktop, especially with all of the bonus XP you can get from the different processes, right? Like rapid clicking and all of that, or clicking at the right time. Doing that on mobile is just it's not made for that.
Yeah, like I had specific worries about how the concentrating would go, because you do need to click very fast for that to work, and I wasn't sure how the mobile devices would respond to it. But
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Okay.
So I only read about that after I did my quick experiment.
Okay. Fair enough.
Make of that what you will in terms of onboarding, I guess.
One thing I do appreciate with this, though, is that this is a take on Herblore that you would kind of expect to see in another game when it comes to making potions. It reminds me a lot of alchemy, as it might be in other games. And I think that's a good thing, because it's quote-unquote another training method. But, of course, the catch with that is you're not getting the huge amounts of XP that you're getting from the regular potions, right? You are, in exchange, getting the tokens that you can use to buy some of the reward items at the end of the day here. And I feel like that's...
Oh, boy. Did you just breach a sensitive topic?
I did. I feel like that's what people were most interested in one way or another with this piece of content. But before we get there, is there anything else gameplay-wise that you want to touch on?
Not really. I think, it largely speaks for itself. I think some of the changes they're making with rotating the potions through it, I don't know. I wonder why they settled on where they did. I feel we might have ended up in a situation where the original iteration of the activity looked slightly different, and they made some last minute changes, but that's all speculation, of course. And like the way that all of the potions reset when you handed in just one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like
and there's
I
also
think,
in terms of potion resetting, it's also slightly confusing about what to do if you don't have the level for any of the potions.
yeah, exactly. So I think that whole thing could have used a little bit more refinement
Yeah.
compared to where it sat when it launched, but
And I mean, if you're just going by gameplay content as well, it's not immediately intuitive what to do with the herb when that starts glowing. So, of course, the thing you do with that is you stuff it in the vial, and that just adds a bit more XP onto the potion that you make. So, it's just little things like that, and I feel like that's not a reason to criticize the content in that regard, because the core loop of the piece of content isn't really affected by that. It's just telegraphing, what's there on the tin.
And I think like I think in general, like the overall content is good. I think they lost sight of the essence. They use all of these complicated terms for like the different processes you can get through, and I understand the fluff, right? But having to sort of look at, like, hover over the icons, and on mobile actually tapping them to see, okay, what's this icon again?
Right.
Which process is it? Why is that table not just highlighted or something? Like like that? And
or
because
the icons. Why
know
don't
that
those show in the
within a
air?
week, that within a week there's going to be a Moonlight plugin that highlights the table you need to click.
And
right?
we love our RuneLight plugins, right? But
yeah, exactly. But like, why are we relying on that?
Why are we relying on it, and why is it not part of the gameplay?
Exactly. So I think in that sense, it could have done with a little bit more polish.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's fair. Reward-wise, what are you most looking forward to?
I mean, we talked about it last week. I think the potion storage is huge. Having that, because having different dose potions and bank placeholders and all that is a massive pain. So that's an interesting account unlock I'm really looking forward to. Really, that's the biggest one I think that I'm looking forward to as well.
I think the pre-pot device is interesting from my perspective.
Yeah, it's gonna be the chugging something starting next week, I think.
What?
They're changing the name.
Oh.
Okay.
Is that in the latest?
Like, to be honest, it makes some sense, because the pre-potting device feels like an internal, code name when you haven't really done the building yet. But it is going to be called the chugging barrel.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's a little bit more clear that it's more about drinking the potions as you're out and about.
Yeah, exactly.
With that. So
yeah.
There's also the prescription goggles. Gives you 10% chance, 10% more chance to save secondary ingredients. That's interesting. The reagent pouch is going to making your traditional potions easier. And the upgrade,
or it is interesting, of course, on certain Slayer trips as well. Like, imagine being an Iron Man and having to gather your own unicorn horns. The reagents pouch will allow you to extend your trips much longer without having to bank.
That's an interesting perspective. I don't play in Iron, so I wouldn't have thought of that. I just go to Grand Exchange and request however many unicorn horns I need.
Yeah, no, this is the thing during leagues. I mean, I had the banker's note, I suppose, but that to me, like, really stood out as a thing. Like, oh, that's not great, especially because I didn't have great unicorn locations in my regions. But
yeah, okay. The issue at the end of the day, and this was, some of the things that I heard with people I talked to that I knew, and was corroborated by the internet, was that it was felt as though everything was a little bit too expensive here, and the amount of time it took to get was a bit too long. agree or disagree?
I this is a tough one. I find this really a tough one. And the reason I struggle with this is I look at the perspective of, like things like account unlocks, and most of these you unlock once and then you never go back for them.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks if people would just spend 2 hours here and finish it. Not just because that, like, even if it's like still a valid training method, it would kind of suck if you run out of interesting rewards to get after 2 hours, and then from that point onward, all you can really get is potions that you may or may not actually want or need.
Yeah,
right?
and the secondary for the new prayer regen potion too.
Sure. That will hopefully remain relevant.
But those are 90, 60, and 120 each, though, so really cheap.
Exactly. So that, like, I think it can take some time to finish the rewards. And for me, the first thing that happened is when talking about this is like, I know another activity like this, where you can unlock a bunch of useful, unique rewards, and that was Tithe Farm.
Yeah.
In Varlamore. So I looked at it. In terms of farming experience, what you get in total for getting all of the unique rewards from it, it's about 1.2 mil farming XP. Whereas in
Mastering
for Mastering Mixology, doing some quick back of the envelope math, it's about 2 mil herblore experience you get in total. So I wouldn't say it's double. It's getting close to double though.
Yeah.
And I think time is like,
wise, it's
the
double.
XP rates are very similar. So you're looking again at like double the time. So it's about 14 hours for Tithe Farm, creeping up to 30 hours for Mastering Mixology.
And does that include the upgraded times that we're going to be seeing next week with these?
I believe it does.
Okay.
This also does include for Mastering Mixology the cosmetic rewards, of course.
Right.
So if you
factor those out if you don't want them, but
exactly, if you subtract those, you already get like reasonably close, I think.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that people seem to be having, and I kind of agree with them, is that you get points in 3 categories, right?
Yep.
Aga, Mox, and Lay. And you don't really have control over which potions generate
Bingo.
and which reward points you get.
Yeah.
And that really slows down getting the reward points you want.
Yep.
The problem is that you need, for all of the unique rewards, a fairly large amount of Lay, which is also the highest level one. And especially people who haven't gotten level 86, and now with the change that it doesn't generate those potions that you can't do, it's really problematic to keep up on a number of lay essence, lay reward points, meaning that people cycle through a lot of potions just to get to those lay potions. And I think that's where the fundamental problem with the reward space lives. And there are some people who say, hey, I actually kind of like that I have to balance my reward points, and it's a mini game in themselves.
But you can't control which potions you get. You want to go for the ones that give the most XP,
you need to be strategic with which potions you hand in. And now that you have choice of handing in multiple, you can influence it a little bit. You can be a little bit more selective. So there is some agency you have there, but again, you're still dealing with a little luck factor. I will accept that. And I think that's where the frustration comes from. And the biggest question is that minigame of balancing your reward points actually an interesting mechanic?
You don't think people are just going to do the best XP potion they can? They're going to pick based on what points they need?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I was going into this, I was thinking people are going to just choose whatever's their best XP for this, because
but the problem is if you do
XP
that, you're probably not getting. I mean, to be honest, the essence you need most is Lay, which is the highest level essence. So there's a strong correlation between highest level potion and getting the most Lay essence you need. So actually, it kind of matches up. But I think so far what I've seen people do is they have not really looked at the XP rates.
Okay. Also, we're not calling it lie?
I say lay.
Okay, fair enough.
Lie.
Fair enough.
I'm not the native speaker. If in case you hadn't noticed by my accent, I'm not a native English speaker. So
yes. And I just do want to highlight again that coming Monday, there will be a 16% approximate cost reduction for the pre-pot device, 25% reduction in cost for the potion storage, and 16% cost reduction for the reagent pouch. And these times,
look, and if you add that with, if you look at those numbers,
yeah,
and you exclude the cosmetic rewards you can get, like you're pretty much bang on target for what it takes for Tithe Farm. And I've not heard a lot of people complain about that. So I mean, 14 hours sounds like a lot. And if you're already 99 Herblore, you now have to retroactively do this. Yes, it is. At the same time, I could just wait with doing this until I'm 86 Herblore, then do this and get a solid few levels out of this as well.
Do you think people are getting too soft in the old school community?
Too soft?
Yeah.
I think
like with this, the discussion around this and the Rathma stuff last week.
I don't think it's too soft. I think more and more people are focused on, I want the end game to be the end game, and
what did we learn about that?
None of the content in this game really targets. None of the content in this batch really targets end game players.
And that's an interesting thing to consider as we move through all the content here, and I think that's good because you add a new area expansion. I had this realization. I was looking at the world map last night as we were as I was getting ready for this show here, and it's like there's this entire new continent here. And then there's this other thing that came out before I started playing to the north of it called Corrin. And I could very much exist on this side of the world and most of the time and get most of what I need done without going back to, the pre-2013 stuff on the other side, which I just think is very interesting on that. But I know
you should start as a locked Iron Man.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah,
that's not.
But
happening.
Overall on the reward space here, I think the changes are good. I think the community has some validity. Like, I think the complaints about the rewards are to some extent valid. I think they're like needing to balance the different points. People didn't really sign up for that, I think.
Yeah, and like in my view, you don't have a choice because for me, if I'm doing this activity, I'm going to be going for whatever potion's going to give me the most XP all throughout, regardless of points.
Yeah,
because
you can do so, and you'll see where you end up with your points. This is another related complaint, which is that if you do that, you're going to end up with a bunch of points. You can probably buy most of the uniques if you just brute force it, right? But then there is no good way to spend your remaining points because all of the rewards require at least some of each essence, like each type of reward point.
Yeah.
So, I think they could offset a lot of the problems by introducing rewards that only take one type of point, so that at least you can spend your leftover points in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
That way they don't have to change the underlying reward mechanic while addressing, I think, the biggest problem.
Yeah, and for me, you're not going to get me to do an activity if I'm not getting the most XP out of it I can. It's as simple as that. So that's something I'm probably going to run up to when I find that it's time to go and, get some of the rewards from here. So, all right. We also got an agility course, and, the thing that I saw most people talking about the agility course was that, oh my god, the XP is horrible. But I think we need to be looking at this in a different way. I clocked it in at 32k XP an hour for the advanced portion of the course. I only ran the simple one about 5, so I don't have meaningful numbers on that. I'm 73 agility, and, let's be real here. I think we're just here for an agility course that you don't need to click as much, and the rewards associated with it. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's what I want to think, but but like if you look at the XP rates of the Sis Village rooftop course, which is at the same level as the advanced course here, unfortunately, that is about 46k per hour at maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
Which you can actually get up to 56k per hour with the teleport. But let's not weigh that in for now.
No, because that's a substantial investment.
That's 50% more. And yes, you need to click less, but how much less? I don't know. I
didn't feel like it was that much less.
No, exactly.
I felt like it was on par with Canifis Rooftop.
No, it's definitely less clicking than that, but at the same time, I played it. I'm like, does this really warrant like that big of an experience?
Are you there just for the graceful? Is that the question here? Maybe the Varlamore graceful.
Yeah.
Is that what this course is for? At the end of the day,
I think I would be.
Also, coming Monday, the cost of the Amelie's packs will be dropped from 200 to 100 termites. You automatically collect these termites as you're running through the course, folks. So don't worry about needing to, bring some sort of bug bag or anything with it.
That is nice for sure. And if you think about it, you get like again, at Sis Village without any diaries. You get about 14 marks per hour, marks of grace. So that's 1.4 pack. How many termites do you get per hour?
I don't know. I know there's 100 in a pack. Players can expect to receive an average of 300 termites and 700 bone shards per 100 laps. So about 30 per lap.
And how many? Okay.
On average.
That sounds like you could get your Amelized crystals there faster than on Sis Village Rooftop. So there are
right.
There are.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, it's just so interesting because when we started this, the Amelie's crystals were a very limited supply. You only got them from the agility arena, wasn't it? Or no, the graceful shop.
Yeah.
And then they added the agility arena with the agility update, and now we got this.
Mm-hmm. And now basically any source of agility you can you can get these Amelized crystals. I don't mind so much. Please make my stamina potions.
Oh yeah,
cheaper,
absolutely.
So I feel better.
Absolutely.
I feel less bad about using them all the bloody time.
Yeah. XP rates aside, I honestly think it comes down to the crystals and the graceful outfit.
Yeah, I think they could give it like a 10 or 20% XP buff, and it would still be fine. I think it would compete a little bit more with Sis Village Rooftop Course, especially since Sis Village Rooftop Course is really good with the teleport. I don't know if the Colossal Wyrm course actually makes it easier to do high alching or fletching, like zero tick training methods.
I am not the person to ask about that. I will never be. And
I think it actually makes it worse because the characters are less out of your control. So if you want to do that and you want to sort of edge of your seat, get the most XP per hour across multiple skills, you're never going to go here. So I don't think it will be incredibly popular. I think there will be people that use it, just like people use the Wilderness course, which also sits in the same level band, doesn't it?
Yep. Which was fun till I got killed 35 minutes in. I thought I was going to be making bank that hour, but then I got killed.
Yeah, so I think Yeah, so Wilderness is level 52. Doesn't that sound familiar? Which you can, of course, get extra XP for the tickets that you get from it.
And there's the cash value associated with it too.
But I'm trying to see if I can get like from the wiki article like an XP per hour rate
for the Wilderness.
Yeah. 47,500. At higher level, so like probably a little bit lower, 40 to 45,000. So very much the Wilderness one is on par with the Sears Village one. No, yes, which is interesting because you can access it earlier than the Sears Village one.
Again, it comes down to how much you value those crystals and the graceful recolor.
Yeah.
Because if you're,
I love how it looks.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love how it looks. So I'm probably gonna get that one, my Iron Man, because I already have the quest speed running one on my main, and I worked hard for that. I'm not replacing it. But I have a second account I can get a graceful recolor on, so I will.
Yeah. Is it okay? And this will probably be the last thing on this. Is it okay that the Wyrm agility course is the primary thing you do if you're interested in the crystals or graceful?
Fine.
Okay. And maybe it's less click intensive too.
I think we're hitting the point with agility. Except for maybe in their super high level bands. But I think we're hitting the point with agility where it's saturated. There is just not that many different things you can do with the skill.
And you know, I have to say, it's going to be interesting to come back and look at that when the run energy changes come in and see how all that affects things, because we know there's another game out there that if your run energy it doesn't drop, you start to question what is the point of agility beyond a few shortcuts. So I know we have novel things here on the old school side in relation to shortcuts, which I unlocked a beautiful one this week, the Trollheim one. The question, though, at the end of the day, is what keeps agility fresh and, you know, with it in 2024. I think it's content updates like this that like we've been kind of just dancing around the edge of. You have your fast XP option, you have your money option in the Wilderness, and then you have an option here that just, you know, gets you those crystals. So that I think that's where I think that's what this course is for after discussing it. Okay. The Hueycotal, or the word.
Huey!
Yeah, okay. You're saying that. I'm thinking of the helicopter.
Okay.
The Bell UH-1 Iroquois.
That's a you thing, not a me thing.
No, tons of countries use it. It was also very popular in Vietnam, and it was in MASH, the hit TV show MASH. You ever hear of that?
I heard of it, never seen it.
Okay. All right. Aside from that, you know, I spent about an hour and a bit at Huey on launch day, and I actually had a good time, believe it or not. I went in blind. I didn't die. I was with people who were a little bit over-leveled than me, but I was doing enough damage that I was getting credit for kills there, so that was interesting. The thing, though, and this is the big thing I want to highlight with Huey here, is that if you're going for the drops and you want to make money at Huey, you really have to probably go in a group, I would say, of 2 to 5 people. I think that's probably the sweet spot based on what I've seen at the boss myself and what I've seen online. That's probably the sweet spot at which you want to go in, because it has 2,500 HP, and I mean, you can do it solo if you want to. But if you're mid-level, like this is aimed for, you're gonna be there a while. And overall, I felt like this was a good combat encounter for me to go to for somebody who has done a number of the quest bosses in game, and for somebody who was around when Scurious dropped earlier this year. This feels like the next level up from Scurious, if I do have to say so myself on it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, like I haven't had a chance to do it myself. I mean, there's some people who complain about the drops not being good enough, and I get it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This boss isn't for you, right? That's what I have to say to those people. I think this is, like you said, it's a step up from Scurious. It's maybe the first foray people have in group PVM. It works pretty well for that. And I've read some stories on Reddit where somebody took a bunch of friends who had never done PVM to this boss, and they had scruff gear. They really just barely got through the kills without dying, right? But afterwards, they had a really good time, and the loot was good enough so that they could do a little bit of investment into a good number of Freya potions, food, and all of that stuff, so they could progress in their PVM journey, right? This is a gateway boss.
Yeah, I'd actually like to go with you after I get the little bangy thingies that you use.
The little bangy thingy.
Yeah, because I feel like that would be a good upgrade for this. I'm forgetting the name. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the Makrahatu.
There you go.
I'm getting good at all of these Aztec names at this point.
Yeah, and when I just say something and make up my own name, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's good. From what I could tell, I haven't gone into this. This boss seems like a really good.
It is
good balance.
Like there's a couple of special attacks in it, and one of them is very obvious. It telegraphs that there's going to be a lightning strike on the ground. All you need to do is move. Simple enough. And then the boss will effectively send colored rain items throughout the sky, and then you just pray based on which one it is. And obviously, red melee, green ranged, blue magic.
Right.
And then after that, you're 100% safe. And, I was getting through the boss without using food. And if I did, it was like one shard only. So it was very intuitive.
I would like to go on a little side tangent here.
Okay.
We all know that RuneScape 3 got its boss encounter recently.
You're talking about the Sanctum of Rebirth?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Which was lauded for its amazing telegraphing. How does it compare?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think you can compare the two, because there's actual floor markers for those that will show where the attack is going to land. And, yes, there is that for the lightning here, but the other thing is that you kind of have to be on your eyes for what color the thing is that's falling from the sky. And that can be a little bit chaotic if you're in a group of more than 10, I'll say. Because I did miss it. I did miss it once or twice.
Yeah, okay.
So I feel like that wasn't a fault of the boss itself, though. If that makes sense. But, the interesting bit about this, granted, we're not dealing with huge amounts of movement here, and everybody knows that's my bane on all things RuneScape when it comes to combat movement.
Yeah.
I had a good time.
Okay.
So
that's I'm really glad to hear that. I think that sounds.
I would like to go with you and maybe another person and see what we can produce here on that.
Reading here from Reddit, a post by a user named Comfortable Cricket, Jagex nailed a lot of the concepts to this boss to make it a chill with your friends type boss, even if you're at completely different parts of account progression.
Yeah.
And based on what I'm reading, based on what I'm hearing from you,
that's exactly
summarizes it.
That's exactly
in
it.
the perfect sentence. And wow, getting that right is difficult and impressive.
Yeah. Like, I was most interested in the herblore activity because, in general, I like herblore as a skill, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I felt most good about after finishing with it was this boss, because I was slightly annoyed about all the things we talked about at Mastering Mixology, from the click boxes to the machines not being 100% counterintuitive, and then just realizing that I would need to play that for a long time to get anything useful out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, it could just go sit for an hour and, have probably a good time with this in terms of getting some of the drops that come from Huey. So, I mean, I feel like the big chase item here is probably the Tome of Earth and the Dragon Hunter wands.
Yeah, like I said, I think like originally the drop rates were probably too conservative, and they buffed those, and we might see further buffs, and I think that is fair enough. But yeah, from what I can tell, the hides are really rare, and that is something I'm worried about, because this is meant to sit between Blessed Dragonite and Armadillo. But if the hides are so bloody expensive, it's gonna go the direction of Armadillo to begin with.
Right.
But we'll see where we're at on that. I'm still upset that they changed the dueling ones to a Dragon Hunter wand. I think it's a serpent. Even the soundtrack says it's a serpent.
Yeah. Oh, I remember our discussions about that when this was first announced.
I will never let this go.
But I do find it interesting that they did manage to stick the landing on this one, and I will just give a fair warning out there to anybody listening who's intending to mass this. Expect to get drops like 1 Avanto Seed, 1 Rune Mace, 1 Bone, if you are going to mass it without going into a private instance group with people you know. Because I posted some of those screenshots just for fun, and I knew what was happening there, but that's kind of just where things landed here. But yeah, we'll go at some point. Maybe at some point that'll be a good adventure for us to do. You think we could do it? 2,500 hit points between the both of us?
I don't know how much damage it does, and like if it's going to be a war of attrition, or
I feel like most
like
of the damage was avoidable.
Yeah, then it's probably doable. It just might be a bit grindy.
Okay. And then comes the Slayer Dungeon and the Demi-Boss, which we'll talk more about the quest that unlocks the Slayer Dungeon next week on the podcast. But you also had interesting things to report about Amoxliatl, the Demi-Boss. I think I got the pronunciation on that right.
Yeah, look, I'm so sorry to report. I have to report this from like not having experienced this firsthand. But I looked at it and I'm loving what I'm seeing. The special attack, or the main attack, basically being like, hey, guess you have to learn how to flinch now. It's not quite flinching, but it's definitely sort of, timing your movement right. I know this is something I struggled with on the Blood Jaguars at the Blood Moon fight, and when I get it right, it feels so good to get that mastered. Having a boss that has this as a main mechanic sounds super exciting to me. The special attacks look very manageable. This seems like a boss that's on par with Scurious, except for none of the stupid prayer switching. So it sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, and only 520 hit points associated with this one too. So definitely something you can take out on your own for that.
Yeah, exactly. Working with the armor bonus, like I think I talked about this a few weeks ago when I did the Moons of Peril bosses, but the flat armor bonus stat that some bosses now have that basically modify the value of a hit splat by a fixed amount. So a flat armor bonus will reduce the hit splat by like a flat armor bonus of 2 will reduce each hit splat by 2. However, a negative flat armor bonus will increase each hit splat by 2, which means that we're trying to maximize the number of hit splats that hit. And all of a sudden, Thorax hammers and the dual Makuato,
The dual bangy thingies.
the dual bangy thingies, they are actually really good because you get your hits basically split in 2, even though you might need to pass additional accuracy checks, but that's not a problem with this boss. So I love how we're getting all of these different niches. I'm looking forward to giving this boss a try. I could see myself when getting a Nagara Slayer task to go and do this boss instead.
Interesting.
And this is the first boss where I'm actually saying that.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it comes up, I guess we'll know for certain if you did do that.
Exactly. I'll report back on it. Also, some interesting rewards. I think this is where we get into the territory of things that aren't in the news post, and I love that. I love that fact about these Varlamore batches, that there is so much that it's tiny in a sense, right? It's insignificant, but it helps embedding this part of the world into the game as if it's been there for longer. So one of the things that the Amoxliatl drops, and I think Huey drops them as well, is parts of the Moon Key, which is basically like a crystal key, but in Varlamore. There's some interesting drops from that chest, such as Dragon Plate Legs, but it's also another source of those new herb seeds. So that's interesting.
And see, we were wondering when the fact that the herb would come from a boss, if it was going to be common enough. We were wondering that, and it's not only Huey that has it on his list, it's this as well.
I mean, for sure, you need to go through 2 RNG checks, right? You first need to get the key, and then you need to get it as a drop from the chest. But it's nice that we're already seeing some other sources, even though it's probably not going to be the main source. It does give people an alternative if they don't have the ability of killing.
So is the wiki not updated for that then? Because it doesn't show on the Amoxliatl page that it drops the
it doesn't drop the seeds. It drops the key, and then the key.
Oh. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So it's very indirect, which is why it's a nice little extra. Yeah. Another thing it drops is the Amulet of Eights.
Yeah.
Which is basically Xeric's talisman, but for Varlamore, from what I can tell. So another thing that I think went below a lot of people's radar. I had to dig a little bit into the wiki to find out that this exists. But again, just adding like a little bit of extra, like a few items, a few teleports.
None that teleport directly to the farming patch.
No. That's unfortunate, isn't it? That would be really something.
And you know what? And I'm going to tell the listeners, you know what the first thing I did when I checked out Varlamore was?
What is
Varlamore
new?
Part 2 this week. I went to Alderin and checked out what that farming patch was on the center of the island. And it's hops. That was the first thing I did.
Yeah. So, all in all, it feels like there's so much to discover in the little nooks and crannies if you look into drop tables and just between the things. And that I love. And that's why I wanted to cover this boss as well. It's mentioned as just a demi-boss. I feel it didn't get a lot of attention. But Amoxliatl is perhaps one of my favorite parts of this update.
Yeah, I can see that. And, I feel like looking at this entire thing that we got this week, it felt as though it wasn't as big as the first batch coming in. And I think I know why now. One, the first batch was an entirely new, city/continent or whatever you want to call it, right? That's one aspect of it. And the other is that the first batch was also buoyed by the fact that we got the Colosseum, which drew a substantial amount of end game focus. And whenever things are end game focused, they're always going to be louder, I think, right? But we can't let that take away from what we got here this week. And, a lot of the stuff here we talked about was decidedly mid-level. Some of it even below the levels where we're at right now. But things like Hueycotal and Amoxliatl, those are going to be perfect for us. And I feel like your story around Huey of the folks who went there at different levels of account progression is probably how you want to do content like this. And then you thread the needle on things like the Wyrm agility course and the questions around mastering mixology. Overall, I wasn't, and I'm going to be 100% honest with the listeners here, I wasn't really looking forward to Batch 2 here, because based on what was in the news post, based on what was talked about at the Summer Summit, it was like, yeah, okay, it's going to be the new Herblore activity, maybe a boss that I won't do because I don't really like, PVM here. So I wasn't really looking forward to this week, and I threw myself into that combat, and lo and behold, I was actually a little bit surprised with it. And if I'm going to be 100% honest, the boss salvaged the week for me.
Well, it's better that you are positively surprised and disappointed.
Oh, yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what I was saying as well about looking at the world map, right? In terms of just realizing that there's now effectively an area bigger than the free-to-play area of the original game that has been added. When did Corrin come out? That was 2017, right? Or was that earlier?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's just say a while back for that, and then 2024 here for Varlamore. There's a unique old school experience, if somebody wanted to experience that they could take when Leaks comes in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pleased overall. How about you?
I think, there's gaps. I think Mastering Mixology
needs
gaps.
some work.
I think the rewards, I get that they want to be conservative, but doubling the rewards in some spaces, it feels like they need to tune their agendas a little bit. They need to tune the level of polish a little bit. At the same time, the new areas look amazing. I love the vibe of Alderaan. The music on that island is something completely unique to old school RuneScape, and it feels distinctly Nintendo-y. Like, I was like, this sounds like Zelda music, or maybe Donkey Kong music, and that is completely unique, and I love it, right? All of the actual content, the graphical fidelity, the game design ideas are really well executed. I think it is the last little mile that we are missing here, and that can be fixed with patches. And I feel I said the same with maybe the original Varlamore. It could have used some more time in the oven, right? With all of the hunter rumors, we had the same thing.
Yeah, right. That was the mastering mixology of that patch, wasn't it?
Exactly, and the Colosseum needed quite a few changes post-release as well. So I feel they're rushing out these updates a little bit more, and maybe a little bit too much. Maybe they need to start being transparent about this, that they want to release things with rough edges and then just refine them over time, because that would be fine. That's basically a public beta test that you're doing at that point. Or maybe they need to allow themselves a little bit more time to, to refine. But overall, I'm really happy. I'm super excited for Varlamore Batch 3, for sure. I think there's going to be some really nice new regions in there in terms of biomes. So keep it going. Keep the content coming.
Yeah, and I feel like if we go back to the Summer Summit on this, what was our reaction to that? My reaction was that it felt like the Summer Summit was dominated by conversations of projects in RS, right? But when you look at this, you realize that Varlamore Batch 2 here actually turned out to be pretty damn good. And, you know, there's the big question mark still about Rathma. But we also have still Curse of Arav coming this year, and, you know, maybe there'll be Sandmaw on the way. But overall, I feel like they did manage to stick the landing on this. And maybe the thing that we just walk away from with this is a realization that everybody just needs a bit of fresh air and to experience the content themselves before putting the cart before the horse.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
no. The Quetzal bird, right? Before the cart before the Quetzal bird.
The cart before the Quetzal. Okay, fine. That works for me. Well, we'll be back next week for Varlamore Quest Week, everybody. We got 4 quests to talk about here. I haven't done them yet, so I don't know if we have another frog quest on deck. But if we do, oh boy.
We'll be talking about the quests, but I think we'll also go a little bit more in the lore and the environment.
Yeah, that's typical update quest week in that regard. I'm looking forward to the murder mystery. I like murder mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in any case, thank you for joining us, everybody, for the old school RuneScape update. If you do want to subscribe, update.show/OS and click your favorite podcast listener. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/@OSRS update. Do like and subscribe. It greatly means the world to us. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the old school RuneScape update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Bye.